Welcome to Take Your Points. My name's Ronan Scott, and this week we have Cal Carville with us and Niall McCoy, and our special guest is Micky McCullough. And today we're going to start with talking about Cal's column last week, Derby Day. Cal, that's what it was called, and you were inspired by the golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I was maybe inspired a couple of months ago in relation to, they did a profile of Seamus Derby on Lochran Gale on TG Cahir, and it was fascinating, the 1982 All-Ireland final and Offaly stopping that great Kerry team of doing 5 in a row, and it was Seamus Derby who was, I suppose, in the autumn of his career at that stage, who scored the wonder goal that is continually replayed. And I sort of wanted to capture, I suppose, that great GAA memory, and given that it was the Offaly team, and given that Shane Lowry had just won the Open and was named champion golfer in the same week, and it was actually Shane's father Brendan and his two uncles both played on that 1982 team, and his father was actually named an All-Star that year and scored 3 points in the final. So as great as the event that the Open was, and you know, a lot of the people from our office were at it, and you know, there was a great buzz around Belfast and the North Coast, and it was really amazing, notwithstanding the weather wasn't the best, but it was really an amazing event for this part of the world. But I suppose the point I wanted to make in my column, and something I think has been borne out in the two games at the weekend, is that being a person who follows the GAA religiously, we have an embarrassment of riches. You know, as great as the Open was, we have those seminal sporting events almost weekly, and we have playing the GAA, the opportunity at greatness almost weekly. And if you look at the two games at the weekend, like, you go anywhere in the world, you know, Champions League finals, a Super Bowl, and you wouldn't see like the level of skill, the level of intensity and the hunger and the pageantry and everything that goes along with it. And watching the Open was brilliant, but I harp back to the 1982 team and the memories that will last a lifetime. And no doubt Shane's father was a proud man when he won the Open, especially on the island of Ireland. But being a GAA man, I'm proud of the achievements all the time.
Are you not falling into that trap that a lot of GAA people fall into sometimes, where they just point to another sport and say, "Oh, sure, our sport's better than that"? Is that what you're doing, or?
Well, I don't think so. I think I was also taken about how great the win was, and like, to win a major is the highlight of his career. But I make no bones about it. I have rose-tinted glasses on all the time when I talk about the GAA, because that's what I'm passionate about, that's what I've grown up with, and that's what I've played all my life. But no one, even someone who had come from America, come from Australia, who had no background in the GAA, can appreciate the level of skill and the commitment of amateur players, and how amazing those two games were at the weekend. And in my piece I also spoke about the Donegal-Kerry game, and you travel far and wide and you wouldn't see that level of sporting endeavour and sporting achievement. So Shane Lowry's was brilliant that he did it, and we were all delighted for him. But as a GAA man, I think our games are the best in the world.
Now, what did you think of the Open then? So did you...
I loved it. Brendan Larry, I was up Saturday and Sunday, and Brendan followed Shane the whole way up, inside the rope the whole time. He was a nervous looking fella, and then seeing his uncles after it and all. And on the final green, Brendan got a hold of the Clark jug, and he was holding it up and the crowd were going mad, and I just wondered, it felt like a Sam Maguire reel, so it did. He done a good trophy lift, to be fair to him. So no, Cal's point, I suppose, his timing's everything, and his point was that we have it on our doorstep every weekly, and then we get those two games at the weekend, which were just incredible encounters. I backed Padraig Walsh for man of the match, and I'm still not sure how he didn't get it. Our team must have heard I'd backed him. But two great games, two fantastic games, two really, really big attendances, two cracking atmospheres, and two unbelievable contests. And a reminder that no matter what happens, Brian Cody remains the master. And if you can't sit back and appreciate the greatness of a man like that, who can take a team that's viewed as being, I suppose, maybe not the end line, being in transition, young players coming through, not the team they were, and to take on a Limerick team that's just been phenomenal this last 2 years in their organisation, everything. And now, okay, Limerick missed a lot of wides, but when the game was there to be won, Kilkenny found a way, and it was like rewinding back 10 years. It's fantastic stuff, and I'd love to see Kilkenny go on and complete the job.
It's just a case that these top six are so close to each other. I mean, we could have different winners every year. Would that be fair to say?
Well, yeah, it's something the football championship's crying out for. Like everyone says, if you took Dublin out of the football championship, it would be amazing competition, but hurling this last 5 years has just went from strength to strength to strength. Okay, the Munster championship this year maybe wasn't as amazing as it has been, but if you look at over the last 5 years, it's been incredible. The Leinster championship this year, the drama on the final day with Galway being knocked out in such circumstances, it's I had a look at the viewing figures for last year, and there's 3 sporting events were in the top 50 RT viewing figures last year. The hurling was number 1, the hurling final, and the semi-final was number 3, the football in between. And hurling is becoming perhaps the sport on a national scale. It's no longer the sport for those Leinster areas, those Munsters areas. It's football has been a bit bland over this last couple of years, and hurling has really benefited from it.
And our next guest, Micky McCullough, will be able to tell us a bit more about hurling and where it's going and what he thinks it should change, how it should change in Ulster in order to improve it. So, but thanks very much for the chat, and we'll be speaking later on. In this section, we're going to speak to our guest, Micky McCullough, former Antrim player, current coach of Dublin. And Micky, can you just you're current coach of Dublin, but could you explain to us where you've come from and how you've managed to get to the position where you are now?
I suppose growing up, I would have always had people take time, look out for you and develop me. Hurling was a sport I just loved from an early age, and I was fortunate enough that throughout my playing career I sort of experienced people like Eddie McToll and Joe Quinn and stuff, and who always took time and developed, and ultimately any of the great days I can think of when I was younger all were hurling related, and I would have them to thank for that. So it was an opportunity that arose around 2004 when the late Jim Nelson sort of asked me to get involved and give him a hand with Rossa Camogie team. And apprehensive enough at the start, but she got involved and found that I enjoyed it. Like it was, people say, it's the next best thing to playing, and it was, because you're back involved, you're getting that butterflies before game and stuff. So I got sort of bit by the coaching bug then, and from that Ross team actually went on and won a Club All Ireland. So you were able to experience some of them great highs that actually wasn't even lucky enough to experience as a player. Sort of through Ross, I got a job then. I worked for Ulster Council for sort of the guts of 10 years between Down and Tyrone and whatever, as a development officer, and sort of you're trying to progress the game and trying to develop the game, and probably to little avail as it looks at the moment. But I always kept on top of my own coaching. The pathway then sort of ended up in Dublin was I would have been involved in club teams. I would have took sort of even Middletown up in Armagh. We're lucky enough to win championships and win Ulster championships and stuff out of that. And a chance meeting a load of years ago with the late great Dave Billings, who ran UCD, sorry. And I got involved in UCD then, and sort of up until that point it was always just an Ulster-based thing where you'd work with Down or work with area. I never ever contemplated really anything sort of at what you would call a higher level really. So David asked me to come down and give a hand out with UCD, and we had players, David Tracy, Killian Buckley, Jack Gainey, Walter Walsh were all playing for us then. So it was the experience of working with there, and you'd initially been nervous, just I won't be up to this, but you found after a while and you get confident and that you were happy enough to work at that level. And then sort of from there, I had been contacted by Chemical Crokes, Wally Baker, and worked in there for a year, unfortunately beating the quarter final, and I sort of thought that would be the end of my Southern Odyssey. And then a couple of years after, I'll be friendly with Joe Fortune, who would have been the Dublin under-21 manager at the time, because sort of played a lot of challenge games with them. Would have been involved with that Meath team that won the Christie Ring and had to give it back and then win it again. So it pushed you into a bit of a spotlight, I suppose. And Joe had taken over Ballyboden last year and asked me to go and get involved. And so I said, sure, why not? I'll put diesel in the car again, away we go. And we were lucky enough to win a championship and when it went to a Leinster final. And so when Matty took over in the Dublin hot seat, he'd give me a ring and asked, to meet up. And when I met him, the opportunity was there that I just couldn't turn down.
What did you think of this season?
It was tough. It was tough sitting now. It's tough looking back on it. It's hard to watch any games at the minute, but up until the Laois game, let's say, it was an incredible experience. I had an opportunity initially early on in the year to go in with Kildare. And I'd sort of agreed to that, without ever knowing I'd agreed, but I'd agreed. And then Matty had rang, I remember sitting looking at the two championship formats, and with Kildare, my opportunity or my options were home to Roscommon, away to Wicklow. Whereas when I looked at the other end of it, it was away to Kilkenny in Nolan Park, first game of the championship, Sky Sports against Brian Cody, and then home in Parnell Park against Davy Fitz, and then at home, so it was the opportunity. I always, even as a teacher, I always encourage kids to try and be the best that you can become. Even as a player myself, I probably could have got away with playing up to a bit of reserve, and sure, everybody thought I was a great lad, but you just have that something that always my grandfather would have instilled at me, to be the best that you can be, and don't be afraid to fail. So I was apprehensive again, and actually, look, do you make this jump? If I went to the Dublin, I had to give up Ballyboden, which I loved. I would have loved to went back to Ballyboden. But just the opportunity of being part of them championship games, of being part of that, and working with the likes of Matty Kenny, who had won 2 Club All-Irelands, it was just too good to turn down. And to be fair, it was everything that you could imagine. I always thought, like, maybe Meath, we would have worked at a good level. We would have had our S&C people, would have had food afterwards and stuff, and you would have thought, does it really get any better than this? Dublin was just frightening. The depth. I mean, we would have a fella there, Shane Carney, who would do the analysis. Now he's a maths teacher in the school, and the depth of the analysis and stuff that he's getting into on every player and every opposition, on delivery, even there coming out of meetings on a Friday night with a game on a Sunday, teams named, squads named, and it's announced, the lads who are in the squad, you have to lift the red bags of food. The lads not in the squad, you have the blue bags of food. And what was happening, that was Brendan Egan, the nutritionist, that was there loading for the next 2 days of what to eat ahead of a game to make sure. And even funny, after Laois had beat us, we came home. You got to remember that the turnaround was only 6 days. If we would have beat Laois, we were having to play Tipperary a week later. So stuff obviously had to be put in place, even to make sure of preparation and recovery. And I remember pulling back up to the hotel in the Louis Fitz and the gourmet food van sitting there, because somebody obviously not cancelled it. And there they were with the food for the players for the recovery for that week coming in, which they didn't. They I think quickly replaced that food with pints after that. But it's just that, and it's the small things. We had a fella there, Ray Finn, who would be kitman, who you'll never hear of. But I remember even working actually with Middletown, and one of the boys' fathers, Jimmy, would have been a great old kitman. He'd always be there with the water, and always there with the bibs when you needed it. But Ray, to be fair, would take that and multiply it by 1,000,000. We would have been playing Carlow. I remember going to Carlow to play them in a Walsh Cup game. It was my first game involved, and the game was like say 8 o'clock that night, and Shane was fit to tell me that he had contacted Ray to ask him, do we know is there plugs in the dressing room? He contacted him the day before to find out, because Ray would have went ahead with the gear. I think Ray had contacted him back at like 3 o'clock. He was there from 3 o'clock for a match at 8 o'clock, making sure everything. When I walked in, my first time walking in the dressing room, it is probably a wee bit like what you would imagine. And it's the small, simple things. Jerseys hung up, sort of the we believe and type things, but even down to the water set out, just, even Ray would be particular about his hurling balls. He can set them out in a wee pyramid. How he does it, I don't know. But it's just that, all that level, them wee small inches that probably maybe don't even count for much. But if it's only an inch that gets you over the line, as it was against Galway, it counted for something.
And what's your opinion then of those who maybe criticise Dublin and say Dublin get far too much money and they get far too much attention? You're well placed to probably counter that.
Funny, somebody had asked me about that before, and the thing that's keep throwing up is they use the count of clubs. Dublin has X amount of clubs, Fermanagh has X amount of clubs. This is disparaging. But what people don't realise is the number of people playing within them clubs. If I take it from a hurling point of view, I think even my own club is Rossa. We would have one senior hurling team. I remember back when I was playing, you would have senior and senior reserve, and maybe at Southampton you would have maybe 3. But an awful lot of clubs up here. In fact, I can only maybe think of 4 or 5 that would even be operating with 2 teams. Whereas Ballyboden, where I was last year, they would have 6 senior hurling teams. Now, when you have their 6 and you add that to Kilmacud 7 and Cooley's 4 and so on, so, it's not a fair comparison just looking at the clubs. You've got to look a wee bit deeper. And funny, I remember taking Middletown down when we were preparing for an All-Ireland, and I think it was something like the 29th of December or the 2nd of January. It was one of them. It was a day or two either side of New Year's Eve. And we were playing Fitard from Wexford, who were in the All-Ireland Intermediate or something. And we're playing them in a challenge game. We'd arranged the challenge game, went down. And on that day in Parnells, we had to go somewhere else. We meant to play in Parnells because Parnells had a regional tournament on where they had 2 AstroTurf pitches. that were divided into 4 pitches, and they had 4 groups on each pitch. So that's 16 teams per pitch, 32 teams, and say each team had 10 players. There's 320, and this was under 10s on the 2nd of January. So the one thing that I do think is right, that would be a football end thing. It's sort of unfair that the Croke Park is a home venue and then Croke Park is a not neutral venue. But as regards to money and stuff and thing, people get carried away, and I think we spend so much time looking above us to see how can we bring them back, instead of thinking what can I do to get up to their level.
Okay. What do teams of an Ulster have to do to get up to that level? Yeah, you're an Antrim man working in Dublin. You probably have strong opinions about what's going on up here.
I don't know if it's misquoted or misdirected at times. Like I wouldn't be where I am without Antrim. Antrim was, and Ross in particular were fantastic to me over the years. And you love to see them do well. And I think it's a bit of that where you'd love to see them push on instead of like they're languishing. They're sort of mid Joe McDonagh now, and even people give a bit of crack in the Joe McDonagh without even ever winning a Christie ring. And I think sort of what happened was a number of years ago when they decided to host all Ulster finals in Casement, and that Antrim would be seated in the final. Sort of around that time I often thought that knocked the heart out of everything, because the likes of Down and Derry were then looking at it thinking, geez, if we're to win this, we have to go and beat Antrim, who are, let's be honest about it, are better than us. In their home patch every year, which is sort of, that starts to put them off. And then if Antrim aren't getting the proper challenges coming through, you got to wonder. Antrim, I think, won maybe 10 or 12 Ulster titles in a row during that period. But did that benefit them as much as maybe only winning 7? But the 4 or 5 that they lost, they had to go to Ballycrown and play Down, or they had to go to Slotneil and play Derry, or they had to go to the Athletic Grounds and play Armagh, and they might have get beaten them. But sure, we talk all the time about you learn more in defeat. Look, from that, and I know Donald Logue talked about it a number of years ago about a Team Ulster, and I would have been maybe the one that spoke to him at that stage. I was involved with an Ulster Colleges team, and so many people, any time that Team Ulster is even mentioned, straight away it's no, won't work. And there's a million things won't work, but why are they not even explored? If you're looking at what's happening at the minute, are we saying that we're progressing? Are we saying that the gap between, Antrim and Derry and Down and what we saw at the weekend there, or even the bottom end of that, is closing? People could argue yes, I would sort of think no, but there has to be something to inspire kids. When I was growing up, we would have left Rossall training at say 2 o'clock on a Sunday. Casement was free in for under 16s. No matter whether you lived down the Falls or whether you lived up in Polglass, you got off the bus outside Casement and you went in and you watched Antrim play Cork or Kilkenny or Tipperary. And I know that's maybe snobbery of me, but that catches the imagination so much more than Westmeath or Kildare or Carlow. Now, in order to do that again, in order to capture the imagination, how do we get Tipperary and Cork and Kilkenny back up here to play in front of our kids? And I don't see it happening in the distant future with Antrim or Down or Derry, so there's more generations being lost. But if you were to take that Team Ulster, for talk's sake, even run it over a 2-year period, would they hold its own? Like if you put Conor Johnson and the Ryan Gaffneys and even some of the Slotneil lads, etc., in together, put them in a team, where would they sit? And I've experienced now of sitting at Division 1B last year with Dublin. Would they hold their own in that division? Of course they would. Now if they're holding their own in that division, they're straight away playing Dublin, Waterford and Galway. Now, if they got 2 of them games at home, all of a sudden you're bringing Austin Gleeson, Joe Canning back up over the border, back up to play in Ulster venues, and the kids are getting to see their heroes, get out in the pitch, get their autographs. I took my own wee boy 2 years ago. I'd be friendly with Owen Kelly and stuff, so we went down to stay in Tipperary with Owen and the family just over. It must have been over towards the Easter period. And we were going in Limerick, we're playing Tip that night, the National League semi-final I think it was, and Owen says, we'll take the 2 boys in. My wee lad would be 7 and his wee lad's just a wee bit younger. So me and Owen, the 2 boys, went in to watch the match, and Aidan, at the minute, I live in Tyrone, so he's just football. I've never really threw a hurl at him. He would see it on TV the odd time and that would be the height of it. And we went down that night, and at half time all the kids were emptying onto the pitch. Aidan's torturing Connell for, can you get me a hurl? And away he goes out, and he can't even really hold the hurl, and he's out and he's running about, and the kids and just the whole atmosphere of it. And he must have tortured me for the next 3 or 4 weeks. Daddy, can I get a hurl? Daddy, can I go to hurling training? And it was a wise statement somebody said before, that there's no myth or magic But when you're deprived of it, there is myth and magic. You know, there's no myth or magic for people of Tipper, Kilkenny or Limerick or Wexford because they see this every day. But until we can bring that back up to our doorstep, it may as well be in a film for us.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Mickey. Let's bring Cal and Niall in to see what they think about Team Ulster idea and see if they think it can work. Niall and Cal have returned, and Cal is going to field the questions about Team Ulster, since you maybe are best placed to have an opinion on it, a strong opinion on it, anyway, Cal.
Yeah, well, I have a strong opinion on most things. In terms of Team Ulster, being obviously an Armagh man, and you know the strides that we have taken in terms of, I suppose, in my playing career, and we have discussed on this programme before about my strong conviction that promotion of hurling is key in Ulster to taking that next step, and I've often said that the inter-county game is the flagship of getting the youngsters involved and getting them interested in it. In terms of Mickey's point he made earlier in relation to Team Ulster, it is well made that in order to get these young kids interested, be it with Armagh, be it down, be it in a Team Ulster, I think it's worth a try. We need to do something here. We've got Gaelfast coming in. We've got a renewed vigour in terms of promoting Gaelic games in this part of the world, and really hurling needs to be put at the forefront of that. You know, and to my mind, you know, football is doing well, but in my county and in other counties, we really need to focus on the hurling and driving that. And I think a Team Ulster, seeing the best players across Down, across Antrim, Fermanagh, Calvin coming together, being competitive at a high level, be it Joe McDonagh, and I think we have players in this part of the world that can compete with the guys from the weekend, with the Tipperaries, with the Ronan Mahers, with the Kilkennys, with the Walter Walshes. Because at club level, the Cushion Dolls, the Lockheed, even my own club, have gone down and played some of against the top players. The Aidan Walshes, we played Kinturk, and Aidan Walsh was on that team, and we have done very well against those type of teams. So at club level, if we can do it, why not a Team Ulster to try it and to see, you know, is this going to push forward hurling in Ulster?
Would the worry be that teams or counties like Fermanagh may suffer in that Fermanagh is essentially the Lisbon team?
Will they suffer? I think, having played against Lisbon, a couple of those players would make it into an Ulster team, but it's the way you structure it. We're not saying an Ulster team and nothing else. We're saying Fermanagh can still operate in a league and can still play, because like at the end of the day, after their league, where they are competitive at their level, and you can still have the tiered championship, the Larry Marr, the Nicky Record, and there is still room for a Team Ulster there in the calendar. Like, you know, we're sitting here today, just coming into August, and a lot of those inter-county seasons are over a month, if not 2 months. So there is room in there for a Team Ulster, and as Mickey said, we're trying to promote the game in this part of the world, and why not try it? You know, what have we got to lose at this point?
Mm-hmm. Moving on from Team Ulster, Super 8s are on this weekend now. They're throwing Dublin's a dead rubber, but Donegal Mayo's the game. I suppose us and Ulster will be watching anyway.
Huge game. You know, throwing Dublin, as you say, it's a bit of shadow boxing. You know, Mayo Donegal is. We're hoping, you know, it's been a pretty good football championship by recent standards, and we're hoping this is another game that can really sort of take it to the next level. It's the beauty of these games in the third matches being in home venues. So you've got Donegal going down to what will be a jam-packed Castlebar, everything on the line. We saw it with Tyrone and Donegal last year. We saw it in Monaghan going down to Galway last year. There is round 3, absolutely fantastic match in round 3. On the game itself, I just feel that Mayo having the week off is just a golden ticket for them. I seen them against Down, I watched them on TV against Armagh. They looked like a tired team that just managed to do enough. Better improved obviously against Galway. No teams needed a week's break like Mayo needed it, and I think that sets it up for a really, really good clash. And I think it'll tell us, because we don't really know, still for me, I'm not 100% sure where Donegal are. They were a Division 2 team, they came through Ulster, obviously had a really big win against Tyrone. This will be the litmus test to see if Donegal are genuine All-Ireland contenders. They come out of Castlebar with any sort of win, because you can never write Mayo off. We can say, yeah, this is a team that really, really have a chance of pushing Dublin, and who knows after that.
Did you make a point on Twitter about home venues? They should do away with the Croke Park round?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's As Micky mentioned earlier, for a start, it gives Dublin a very significant advantage. Like, the fact that they have 2 Croke Park fixtures for one, which is an instant reason why it should be changed. But it's the beauty, and we've seen it in Cavan, the club championship last year. We've seen it in Armagh with their new format. What Cavan did was they took the games which were in Breffni, which on great pitch, and players I'm sure loved it, but we said, no, we're going to take it back to the clubs, we're going to play these in club grounds. Armagh have a home fixtures now, so you're getting championship games in the club, and they're absolutely brilliant. They're not crowds lost in big stands or anything like. It's boys round the pitch, the crowds round the pitch, they're on top of you, and it's just fantastic. And the more that, the better, because a full house, it doesn't matter if it's 10,000 or 30,000. If you have a full house, you've got a special atmosphere. It doesn't matter the ground, and we need to get more of that rather than having a quarter full or half full Croke Park where you can hear the seagulls squirking at the top of the Cusack stand. So more of that, the better for me.
Micky, that sort of ties in what you were saying, like the GA benefits whenever people can see these players. You want these Galways coming up to play at Team Ulster up here.
Antrim Camogues, we had an All-Ireland final as part of the Camogie Finals Day in Croke Park, and it was an unreal experience to be in Croke Park, but it was empty. You could hear yourself think, and we ended up drawing that, and the replay was played in Ashburn and Meath, it was tiny, but it was rocking. Even when I think back there, even this year, I'm not sure we'd have beat Galway if it hadn't been for the crowd in Parnell Park, so there's a special atmosphere. And look, I think the Super 8s from watching on has been a great idea, but I nearly wonder, is there a potential there to start spreading the brand? There'll be counties who may never make a Super 8s, but that doesn't mean their county ground couldn't host one of the games, and all of a sudden you're bringing the Dublins and the Tyrones and round sort of pockets of Ireland that, even for talk's sake, there's talk of casement, imagine a Super 8 game, Dublin, Tyrone, something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but it'd be a neutral venue between the 2 counties that could all of a sudden bring it and bring that special atmosphere around the country.
Have you noticed up in Belfast? Well, you don't live in Belfast, but in Belfast, the absence of casement. I mean, that point to be made.
Okay, casement sort of has been used as maybe an excuse at time. I don't know necessarily that building casement will all of a sudden turn Antrim into winning all irons again, but it's just, whether you like it or not, it was the hub of the GAA within the county, whether it was the Glens or whether it was Belfast, casement was your hub, and it is, you're sort of on a boat now with no oar at the minute, there's no real place to call home. And I know, even from taking teams myself over the years, one of the first things you always want to find is a home, whether it's with Antrim Camogues. I remember we would have trained in Clockbill simply because they guaranteed we could have it every week. It wasn't a bit, but it was a home. You knew where you were, you got comfortable in your environment, and I think Antrim needs a home, like.
Mm-hmm. Just finally now, Rory Gallagher left this week. Any thoughts on that? And we've now got 3 counties with no management.
Yeah, follows Malachy O'Rourke, Monaghan and Damien McAlean, Derry out the door. Minor surprise, he was there 2 years. His record's fairly good. Took him up to Division 3, Ulster final in his first year. This year, during course for Division 1 until they went out to Armagh, out to Crossmaglen, and put in a really bad performance, lost to Meath. So on the whole, you'd have to say he's done very well there. We all know the problems with Fermanagh, very limited pick. It's my understanding they might be losing a few players next year again. So too, I would say it's a minor surprise. He's done well, Rory, and you speak to players from Donegal and Fermanagh, they all speak very highly of Rory. So he's obviously a very smart fella, and perhaps, who knows, maybe he could end up in a Derry gig or something like that. I don't know what Rory's plans are. I'm more interested in the successor, because I can't really think of too many options. Malachy O'Rourke, I'd imagine, will want a bit of time off. He'll not like being linked with it, but Kieran Donnelly's a name that springs to mind, but Kieran's committed to Scottstown at the moment. Dom Corrigan's always thrown in and obviously done fantastic work with St Michael's this year, taking them to the Hogan Cup, and there's some incredible players came through under his watch. Probably going to take a couple of years for them to come in, so it's an important time for Fermanagh football that they don't fall away. They get a good appointment in, and the main focus for the next 2 or 3 years should be getting those group of very talented youngsters. And we've seen them beat Donegal in the under-20s this year, getting them through, getting them experience, and then in a couple of years they should be ready to rock again.
Okay. So that's us for the week. Thanks for coming in, lads. Thanks for watching, and you'll see us again in a fortnight's time.